Making headlines tonight, the public is showing interest in the B.O.S. program. More than 100 Barbadians are now in quarantine after arriving on a chartered British Airways flight from London. Charitable organizations are stepping forward to assist their countrymen. And coming up in sports, 14 Barbadians named in the Windies touring squad to England.
Broadcasting from our studios in the Pine St. Michael, this is CBC Newsnight, starting now.
I'm Shane Jones, leading the news at 7. Over 100 Barbadians who returned home this afternoon on a repatriation flight from London are now being subjected to government's COVID-19 arrival protocols. The citizens who were stuck in the UK for several weeks after borders closed in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic touched down at the Grantley Adams International Airport around 3. The flight was allowed entry on humanitarian grounds. In a telephone interview with CBC News, Health Minister Lieutenant Colonel Jeffrey Bostic said the Barbadians will be tested and placed in mandatory quarantine.
Anyone who is desirous of being quarantined at their own expense at a hotel, we have a couple of hotels that we've been using to do that. So they would be able to quarantine by that means, or quarantine at another government facility, which is at the moment Paragon Base or St. Lucie District Hospital. So that's where the mandatory quarantine will take place.
Well, our Shane Seeley was among those passengers arriving and being quarantined. He filed this report.
Well, Shane, this story is really one for the ages, I must admit. I was one of just over 200 passengers who would have come in on that British Airways flight back to Barbados, a repatriation flight, which the government of Barbados would have worked with the company to organize to allow us to return back to Barbados. And when I say us, I don't mean only Barbadians. A number of Vincentians and St. Lucians were on that flight as well, and they have been reconnected once arriving here at Grantley Adams Airport to their destinations. The plane would have arrived just after 3 o'clock, and we were taken not to the arrivals hall, but to what is normally traditionally the departure lounge, where we were briefed by the head of quarantine facilities here in Barbados, Alvin Hart, about what that next step will be. Right now, in that next step, which is we were transported in about 5 to 6 transport board buses. Our luggage was brought in BDF trucks, and we are here at Paragon right now as I speak. And I can tell you, I'm here with my passport in hand, and the reason why I have my passport is because I have to give that to what appears to be a nurse who is expected to conduct a test on us for COVID-19. So she's taking our names, and then we will go outside, and every one of these buses will be tested for COVID-19. Now the arrangement is that for 14 days, all of the passengers here will be quarantined. Regardless, I mean, if you have COVID-19 or not, you will be in quarantine for 14 days. However, you have options. Most people have opted to stay at Paragon, which is one of the current quarantine facilities. The other one you would know is in St. Lucie. Then there are hotel options, which if you want to take up, you have to pay for. So right now, it's just to await the test and to see what happens next, because if you test positive, I'm pretty sure that you will be in a different type of quarantine from the others who test negative.
Thank you so much, Shane, for that comprehensive report there. Well, some fantastic news. 5 people will leave isolation today, left isolation today after recovering from COVID-19. Their departure leaves just 4 people at the Harrison Point St. Lucie facility, since no one tested positive among the 81 tests carried out yesterday. The number of people who have recovered from the viral illness has now increased to 81. A total of 92 people, 49 females and 43 males, were diagnosed since March 16th. Of these, 7 have died. The B.O.S. Santos Public Health Laboratory has now completed 5,580 tests. Barbadian interest is growing in the Barbados Optional Savings Scheme B.O.S. Senior Economic Advisor Kevin Greenidge alluded to this as sessions on the proposed program continued at the Wilde Gymnasium. Dr. Greenidge says given the impact of COVID-19, government is working to maintain employment and boost economic activity. He says credit unions have indicated their support.
So we've heard from the lead credit union, Mr. Haynes, saying that they will take your bond at par and give you the money and credit your account wherever you want with the money, your loan account, whatever. And the reason is that it benefits the credit union. This is a good investment opportunity. Right now, credit unions put the money that you put in with them into banks, earning 0.15%. Now they have an opportunity to put in a government bond and earn 5%. They benefit because their revenues improve, and you benefit because the credit union members benefit because their share price improve. Their shares improve, dividends are paid, and members improve. You could sell it to a friend.
Prime Minister Motley assured the B.O.S. is a win-win for Barbadians, especially those who want to save.
This is the best of Bajan creativity and ingenuity, working government and the labor unions working together to meet the needs, because what we did was to deconstruct. Yes, government needs to move money from one side of the accounts to another side in order to be able to create the activity that will allow more Bajans to work. At the same time, we need an instrument that gives you the flexibility, that does not leave you out of pocket if you need all of your liquidity. And if you don't need all of your liquidity, it gives you the opportunity to get better interest rates than anybody else in the country giving you.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Motley continues to bat for small islands, developing states, calling for emergency fiscal measures, including debt relief to avert another potential crisis. The call came during her address via video conference at an extraordinary meeting of the Organization of African, Caribbean and Pacific States. According to her, SIDS have been suffering from high debt and low growth for decades, and there is need for mature conversations on debt obligations in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic.
And I'm not speaking for Barbados because we have fundamentally restructured most of our debt. I'm speaking for my brothers and sisters in the region whose profile as countries have too high a debt to GDP ratio and who have little room to maneuver. Even as we therefore battle with the social and economic ravages of COVID, we continue to face the fact that this is hurricane season. June 1st has passed. And for us, the Atlantic hurricane season this year is expected to be active and an above average season. We pray that this is a false prediction.
Ms. Motley says the multilateral system cannot be allowed to die, as the global threats and crises all require multilateral collaboration, commitment and responses. She adds the interdependence of the world has been magnified with the onset of the COVID-19 and pressed for a revision of the vulnerability index for countries in the region.
We, like others, feel now that who are now reflecting their plight and their anger as citizens who have not been seen and who have not been heard and who are now taken to the streets in the United States of America, they are reflecting their anger and disappointment as a result of the fact of not being seen and not being heard. We small island states know the feeling only too well, for we feel that we sound like a stuck record. And we recognize that no system that is ignored forever can flourish, and hence we find sympathy for the actions taken by those in the United States of America who are simply asking, in the words of Peter Tosh, for justice.
While many Barbadians are still at home during the COVID-19 pandemic, hundreds of brave men and women are making a daily sacrifice to ensure the country keeps running. We salute these Barbadians with our Newsnight series On the Frontline. Meet Richard Wilkinson, a proud driver with the Sanitation Service Authority.
Out here when the day comes, we don't really got no problems. But it's comfortable where I'm concerned working. And it's more easier for me too, especially a lot of people home. We don't got the hustles like dealing with traffic, you know, and that kind of thing. But for me, we're working, most of my men is meet like their people. You understand? So then we're more closer to me than to them than me. But we don't really got no problems over here like kind of way. I love it so. Like on my honest truth, I love to work so. Feel more comfortable and thing. The COVID-19 won't bother me so much. You understand? Because I am mixing with the actually crowd. Now we ain't that close apart. It's only like if you go to the landfill and the guys come close to me then all we got on be mask. You put your best into it as far as I'm concerned, and you gotta give and take. It can't be one way all the time. Sometimes you got it good, sometimes you got it bad. And if you can come out here and socialize with one another, when it's socialize, you know, start a distance and thing, but be more comfortable with working with other people. I believe everything should be good. My name is Richard Wilkinson, and I is one of the frontline workers.
More assistance is coming for vulnerable families here in Barbados. The latest lifeline has been given by the Barbados Cricket Association's female division. This morning, that group presented thousands of dollars in vouchers to the Ministry of People's Empowerment and Elder Affairs. Women's team manager Betty Lewis says the concept came from one of the players.
We have a chat, and the message came into the chat. I know Kaisi doesn't want me to say it, but I have. But Kaisi had dropped the first message. You know, manage, maybe we can come and put ourselves together and, you know, put some money and see if we can give someone. And it was an instant positive reaction from everyone. And then, of course, who would we give it to? And again, we put it out to everyone, and everyone agreed that this would be the better option in terms of reaching those families out here in Barbados who are really in need. So that is why we are here. Yes, I have a few players from the West Indies team, but I have players in my team who are students. I have players in my team who are unemployed. But everybody decided to put something towards it, and it made a great difference. And being a director at the BCA, it was easy for me to sell that to the board of directors to say, well, look, this is what the women have put together. Can you match it? And with that, we came up with our final total. It's a pretty decent total, I would think.
And Minister of People's Empowerment, Cynthia Ford, thanked the cricketers for remembering those in need at this time. She has called on others to follow the team's lead.
I'm going to ask the other organizations, sporting ones as well, to join us in this exercise. But you are the pioneers in this respect, to come on board and whatever they can offer that they know will help to make families comfortable, we encourage them come. Even if it is just a few vegetables, some bottles of water, some juices, some Pampers. It does not matter, because we're not looking at it in dollars and cents. We're looking at it as the gesture that can make a difference in their lives.
Local Freemasons have mounted and executed a massive outreach and give back project to aid with Barbados' response to the COVID-19 pandemic. This came as they held a district-wide charity initiative coordination day event. Rianne Phillips tells us more.
The Queen Elizabeth Hospital and the Ministry of Health received donations of personal protective equipment during the district-wide charity initiative coordination day. That event saw 6 lodges here in Barbados uniting under the umbrella of the District Grand Lodge of Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean in the COVID-19 fight.
This presentation is part of a regional initiative as directed by the District Grand Master to donate these supplies in this crisis. This is part of a presentation which amounts to some 30,000 Barbados dollars. In the case of Barbados, of the 6 lodges, the value is to the tune of 16,000 Barbados dollars. It therefore gives us tremendous pleasure to be a part of this effort. Let me stress that this is the first of many, and the Freemasons of the English Constitution will be ensuring that as long as the crisis continues, that they donate a number of things.
1,500 surgical masks were presented to the Ministry of Health, and officials are grateful for the items.
Let me just say a little bit about the surgical masks. They're an essential part of personal protective equipment used by our frontliners, and they will definitely come into good use. This is something that is in short supply across the globe, so not only in Barbados, but something that would certainly be extremely useful for us in Barbados as we respond to the coronavirus.
The Freemasons also pooled their efforts to provide food hampers to the most vulnerable in society through the Salvation Army.
Freemasons have donated funds to acquire food supplies through popular supermarket and one other plantation which has provided the ground provisions and vegetables.
We are very happy to be recipients of the food hampers given by the Lodge of Barbados and Eastern Caribbean on behalf of the needy persons of Barbados. Realize it's a very difficult time for a lot of persons, and this is a tremendous help at this time. As you will have seen as you came in, a number of persons outside waiting to receive hampers, and so this will also benefit them, and the timing could not be better.
Similar donations are expected to be made in the future. Members from the Research Lodge of Amity, the Albion, Victoria, Union, St. Michael's, and Preceptors Memorial Lodges pitched in to make the project possible. Rianne Phillips, CBC News.
Fantastic work. Still to come, a look at some of the stories making headlines across the region. Then we have sports a bit later on. But before we get to all of that, here's a tip from Cooperators General Insurance.
This tip of the day is brought to you by Cooperators General Insurance Company Limited. Insurance the way you want it to be.
Do not vent, argue, complain, or start a Facebook war online. This only makes the cyberbully feel better. This tip is brought to you in association with the Child Care Board and UNICEF, helping to protect our children while they surf the web.
Checking in with our regional neighbors now, Antigua and Barbuda is the first CARICOM country to reopen its airport. With the country set to welcome its first international flight tomorrow, Prime Minister Gaston Brown says he's confident in the new protocols in place to prevent the spread of COVID-19. More from ABS TV Antigua.
Prime Minister Brown says the major challenge facing Antigua and Barbuda as the country once again welcomes commercial flights is to ensure that there is no spread of COVID-19 among the local population. He feels confident about the protocols in place to ensure this does not happen.
Now, all arriving passengers must complete a health declaration form and will be subjected to screening and temperature checks. And what we have installed is what is called a infrared fever detection thermometer.
Acknowledging the concern, Prime Minister Brown says the government had to find a balance between maintaining the health of its residents while at the same time protecting livelihoods.
We even continue to struggle to pay salaries and wages, and would have done so in essence out of a strong commitment to secure and to protect public sector jobs. And we would have had to engage in some level of financial gymnastics in order to meet those payments.
In addressing the prevailing concern about hotel guests, Prime Minister Brown says hotels have strict protocols in place.
And that is why we're now trying to ensure that it is mandatory for these individuals to go into hotel properties that will be designated as biosecured spaces. And to define biosecured, these are hotel properties which will have trained staff, will have nurses, and will have all of the protocols in place in order to guard against the transfer of the disease to the domestic population.
Prime Minister Brown says with the country opening up, there is an increased risk of spread. So it is now an imperative that residents adhere to all of the protocols.
As the vote recount from Ghana's March 2nd general elections continues, questions are being raised as to just how much the process is costing taxpayers.
It is approaching a month since the national recount started, and as it moves toward wrapping up, the question of how much money it is costing is unclear. But what is certain, the recount isn't coming free of cost. Here's Public Relations Officer GCOM Yolanda Ward.
I don't have a budget figure on this recount aspect, but what I can say to you, it's not a case where we sourced additional funding for it. It is funds that we have at our disposal that we would have used for for this exercise.
As early as December 2019, GCOM had received over $8 billion. As part of the national budget for 2019, GCOM was allocated $5.546 billion. This sum, however, was supplemented with an additional $3.482 billion in May of 2019, after the Commission indicated to the President that it lacked the financial resources to facilitate early elections. The GCOM PRO on Monday promised to provide the figures spent so far on the recount.
I can clarify.
So far, the recount has unearthed 1,927 rejected votes at the regional level, with 1,536 at the general level. But even rejected ballots still attract a cost.